Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is Cee, certified brewhead.
And I am Nathan from NathanDoesBeer.
Yes, you are. And welcome to episode 133 of Brewmaster Podcast Adjunct series. Nate, we're bringing it close by to me at least this evening. We haven't had that many breweries from Cambridge, Ontario, have we? It's been...
We've had at least one. No, sorry, we've had two.
There's
actually,
two.
because we had Barn Cat and Farm League.
Yeah. So it's for people who aren't aware, there's like an area called the Tri-Cities, which is Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo, which is not too far from here in Hamilton, not too far from Toronto or London on the other side. And there's a lot of great beer happening in this whole region, and Cambridge in particular is super well known for a fantastic beer scene. And this is a brewery that I've heard about primarily through, or originally at least a few years back, from Craig from Craft Brewing Co. So shouts to Craig. He's a legend and a big supporter of everything in the city. And I'm really looking forward to. He hooked me up with a few of the beers, which was great. So I got to try them, but it's been a couple of years, so I'm excited to get into all this. Obviously, Nate is a fan with the hoodie right there, holding it down. But
Yeah, that's right.
For those who are listening and not watching and don't realize that Nathaniel is wearing that hoodie that says Wavemaker on it. All right, let's get it going. So everybody, please welcome Scott from Wavemaker in Cambridge, Ontario.
Hey, yo.
Hey. What's up, brother?
Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
looking forward to it. Dude, thank you for hanging out. This is going to be great. I'm very excited. We got a lot to talk about. We have a fantastic lineup of beers that you have hand-selected this evening. Where are we starting off, my man?
For sure. Definitely our Lagerbier.
Boom.
One of my personal favorites.
Hell yeah.
There it is there. Nice, beautiful German countryside on the can there.
Look at it.
Yeah. This beer's wiggin'.
Hell yeah.
It's gorgeous, colorful label.
Super cut. Is that on your shirt? That's your shirt right there, too.
Oh, yeah. I'm wearing the Lagerbier.
Look at that.
Yeah.
It's what you need.
Sweet. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Tell us about this beer, dude.
Yeah, man. It's so good. It's
I love it.
Franconian lager. So, unfiltered German lager, super easy drinking. Has some more character than a like a light lager kind of thing. Yeah, super easy drinking, light fruit notes. Nice bitterness there. Not too strong, not too weak, just nice and firm. Just super nice on a hot day. Takes you right into like a Bamberg like beer garden,
That is dope.
Super nice.
I'm loving the unfiltered thing. It's I always feel like it's not as common with lagers. I want to take a sip before I ask you too many questions because I'm super curious about the specifics of this one. Franconi meaning Southern German, okay, as opposed to Bavarian. So that is the difference there. Nate, are you ready to cheers, my man?
It's kind of like a small region around Bamberg where they have the lagers are like kind of really distinctive.
Gotcha.
Yeah, really nice.
Oh yeah, great nose. Nice and malty. Cheers, folks.
Oh yeah, cheers.
Oh yeah, beautiful. So the
the
unfiltered, that's like specific to the lager beer style specifically. Is that accurate?
For sure.
Okay.
They I'm German ancestry, so I've kind of been growing up drinking German beer since I could buy beer from the liquor store. Even when I was just getting started, it was just like I gotta go to the German stuff. It's kind of like how I kind of started, and it's always near and dear to me. And so if I ever thought, hey, if I ever do my own brewery, I would love our flagship to be a traditional German lager.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, super. Yeah, man. And they So I had a chance to go over there for a family wedding in 2016, and I got a chance to meet some brewers over there and to talk shop and learn a lot about how they do it. And
Sick.
I have experience during brewing German lagers at other breweries I've worked for in the past, so kind of took the knowledge from that trip plus like some previous experience to create what I think is a wicked example of a German lager. Yeah,
Fantastic. It's great, bro. It's got tons of flavor. It's got a nice malty
Yep.
sweetness in there. Great little grassy bitterness to kind of balance it out. Very refreshing. Great carb. It's 5.4, so like in the lager world, I guess it's like, just a touch higher than normal. But
for sure.
super smooth, goes down a treat. I love it. I always get a little confused with the different styles as far as like specifically the difference. So this is great to kind of like clarify the Lagerbier one in comparison to other stuff. So is there like a Czech version of a Lagerbier, like an unfiltered, you know how they have like a Czech Helles or a Czech Pilsner, a German Pilsner, and so on and so forth, that's maybe somewhat comparative? Is there anything else similar to this, or is this something all unto itself?
For sure. Lager beer is kind of like one thing I learned on that trip is they kind of use it as like a catch-all kind of term
Right.
for like it can include a color beer or like a Helles, but like an unfiltered version. I
Hmm.
also learned sometimes they call in that area they call a when they filter it they call it a pilsner. When it's an unfiltered version they call it lager beer.
Hmm.
So it's kind of almost like a catch-all category for the region rather than
Interesting.
like almost like a kind of like like when you got like a Dortmunder or that kind of thing. It's kind of like a bunch of breweries in this area brew like this type of style kind of thing.
Right.
So it doesn't have to fit into a certain uh, parameter, I guess. Just they ferment it very similar, and they treat they have similar processes from brewery to brewery. So it kind of just like a captures the area in flavor. Yeah.
Interesting. So you wouldn't find a lager beer from a different part of Germany.
Oh, you totally could too. Yeah, for sure. It's kind of
Gotcha.
like it's maybe not as specific as like let's say lambic or something like that, but it's something they really pride themselves there with it having. They usually ferment it really warm and usually open in the big open square fermenters and that kind of thing. And some of
Sick.
them even still use cool ships to this day too, which is really cool. So having a chance to see German lager breweries using cool ships is something not super common anymore. And those kind of things, they kind of have their own certain way of doing it, which creates a lager with more character, while still being distinctive and yet kind of tastes like a delicious smooth lager. Yeah,
I
it's
like
pretty
that.
unique.
Okay. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
It's definitely like it's got a lot of unique flavors to it. Like the profile is super it's like it's interesting. It feels like it's kind of in between a bunch of stuff, which is why I was curious if it's
mm-hmm.
like, and it also lager beer, like BIER for those who haven't seen it before. Like it felt like you said, like a catch-all sort of thing where you just call it that, and it probably could be a little all-encompassing. So that's
For
I've
sure.
seen it around, but I never really thought that much about what it actually could mean. So this is great. This is fascinating, dude. This is fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Is this
Yeah, thanks.
a
Appreciate it.
flagship or anything like that? I imagine this would probably be quite a popular.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
we brew it year round. We started brewing it maybe about 6 months or a year into the life of the brewery. We started with like a North American style lager, which was really delicious too. But I was like, I'm kind of leaning towards more something more German, just as being our mainstay. But we still brew a light beer too. We do this year will be our second year in a row doing a light beer for the summertime. So
Sick.
we get some requests and I enjoy a good light beer once in a while too. So it's nice, yeah. So we still it's kind of not what's the right way. Lager beer is super approachable for anybody who would come into the brewery and find something. It's got that history and that craftiness to it. But if somebody comes in and say, just I'm interested in having something light, then they wouldn't be like upset getting it kind of thing. It kind of just
No, not at
encompasses
all.
every yeah yeah. So, but even the last summer, man, it was just such a hot summer, and we did a light beer with Brothers Brewing in Guelph. We did a collab where we both needed light beer at the same time. So we were like, let's do something, and it was delicious. And we're doing our own version this year, and it should be out in a few weeks. So we'll get that rocking and rolling too.
Hell yeah.
Um, but yeah,
That's
the
cool.
lager beer it has that tradition and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be like this one's where your heart is. Um, as much as it is as it is very smooth, again approachable, it's actually got quite a bit of complexity to it, I
Mm.
find. I'm getting a bit of sweetness, as C mentioned, like which you might find similarly in a Helles, although it's lighter considerably in body than a Helles would be, and even also has I'm getting a bit a bit of citrus in there as well, which is kind of balancing out that sweetness, and it kind of helps to dry it out on the finish, which is quite nice. This is really tasty.
Yeah, thank you. You definitely nailed it. It's a very unique beer. It's really hard. Like it's got complexities, but it's very straightforward. You know, the beer ferments really dry, but it still has like a residual kind of sweetness that's not really like sugar, like malt, I guess. Like the malt flavor's there, but it's not like a
It's like
malt
honey.
sweetness.
It's honey I'm getting.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
It's I think it's a mixture of our yeast strain that we use and our water chemistry. I think it's kind of like a combo of both of those things that kind of people are like, ooh, it's got a little tiny little sweetness at the end, but in my mind it just makes me laugh because the beer ferments super dry. So I think it's just kind of our house character comes through a little bit in this one.
That's sick. I love that. This is a great way to kick it off, bro. So first things first, let's get into your beer history, man. Like, how did you personally get into craft beer, and how did that lead to the brewery?
Yeah. So uh, I started drinking craft beer maybe in 2009, 2010, maybe even 2008, 9, 10, something in there. I was studying accounting at Brock University, and then I just kind of fell in love with it, and I just got obsessed. And I was studying like how to make beer more than my accounting exams that I had coming up. So I was just like, I think this is where my heart is, you know. And so I finished. I graduated with my accounting degree, and I was starting for the accounting tests. And then I left my job. I got into brewing school in Niagara, and started working at breweries, you know, part time here and there while in school, and then you know in summer breaks and that kind of thing. And then started working in the industry, and I've worked at big breweries, small breweries, and well-funded breweries and more bootstrap kind of breweries and stuff. I've kind of done it all and seen a whole lot. And you know, I had a chance to be a part of a couple startups as well, which was super helpful for when I kind of got a chance to see like how different people approach like solutions to issues that can come up during creating a brewery and starting something from scratch. So learned from a lot of good people. Um, yeah, I was the head brewer at before Wavemaker. I was the head brewer at Old Flame Brewing Company in Port Perry.
Sick.
So
Okay.
helped them start up the brewery, plus run a little run the brewery for 3.5 years or so, and then I just I talked to the bank and said, hey, I want to do it for myself. You know, I've got this track record. I know what I'm doing, and I want to do it for myself. And yeah, that was 2017, summer 2017, and then it was about a year and a half to get Waymaker rolling here in town. And I'm born and raised in Cambridge, so I grew up a couple blocks from where the brewery's located. So I was super lucky to find this building. It's right nestled right into the community. It's right at the end of a residential street and in a very residential neighborhood. So we're super just like a little pocket right there at the end of the street, you know.
That's perfect. Particularly, I guess you probably know a lot of people in that area too that would be supportive and wanting to come out because you grew up there.
100%. And that's something I didn't really anticipate when we were even building out the brewery and doing our thing. Just even having friends come by, family friends. Say like a friend of my dad comes in and goes, "Hey, I hear your beer is good. I want to give it a try." Like having a local community really rally behind you, not just with family and friends, but also like just people from the neighborhood excited to that. Oh my God, like a brewery's coming in this building. This is so sweet. So we had people like knocking on our door and all this kind of stuff like every day when we were building up the brewery, and people showing support and excitement, and all of them still come to the brewery today. It's, as we all know, breweries are very community-based businesses for sure. We're community hubs and support over community space for everyone. So it's so great to see it, have everybody come out and love good beer, man.
Hell yeah. That's dope, man.
Yeah.
So 2017 was when you opened? No, you said it took a year and a half, so it would have been sometime in 2018 of where they actually, I guess, April.
Yeah, we opened in March of 2019. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
St. Patty's Day weekend too, which was sweet.
That's convenient.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was about a year and a half for the build out process. Our building is an older building too, so we had to bring some things up to code, and like we put in new electrical, new plumbing, washrooms. We had put in an accessibility washroom in. The accessibility doorway needs to be a little wider, and an emergency exit that was previously there, but then they kind of needed an upgrade, and these kind of things like we didn't really anticipate when we were finding the building and get rolling. And then we started working with an engineer and an architect to kind of capture the scope of what we needed to do, and then worked with the city of Cambridge, who were very helpful throughout the process to bring an older building kind of back to life, I suppose.
That's great.
It's the building's from the 1940s, so and it's been a variety of things. The city of Cambridge became a city in the 60s, so history of this building didn't really exist in like the city archives, I suppose. So they were like, okay, we know this is here because we can see it on like the satellite imaging and stuff, and like some of the zoning and stuff was visible, but it's just a little hazy from the city point of view. So they were thinking like, is this a house? Like, were you trying to do this in a house? Like, no, it's a completely standalone building, but it's in a residential neighborhood. So it was just little things like that came up throughout the process that kind of put us back some months, but it all worked out, and the city was very supportive and helpful throughout the whole process.
That's great.
Yeah.
I've heard that can be the worst part, all the zoning and the permits and just nightmare. So that's great.
Yeah, red tape is real, man, for sure. Like you gotta check all the boxes and make sure everything is packaged up nice and exactly, kind of how they need to do their scope of their work. So as long as anybody out there, just a little tip is get an architect on board really early. We worked with an engineering firm, which was great, but there were some like architect kind of things that were missing from our application that they needed to see. So anybody listening who wants to start their own place, hire an architect and just make sure all your T's are crossed and I's are dotted before you start.
Good advice. Very, very good advice. Where did the building exist? Like, what was the area? Was it like one of the other nearby cities or something? Like, what was it? If it wasn't Cambridge.
It was in Cambridge, but Cambridge is made of 3 small towns put together. Oh. So they kind of amalgamated in the 60s. And so during that process, like some of the really older buildings that have been around for a long time didn't quite, that didn't really have anybody applying for permits for kind of thing. Like, they didn't have any reason to look. But when we were like, hey, we want to do like, this complete overhaul of this building, they were like, okay, well, we don't have any record of no floor plan, none of that stuff. So we had no idea, like, we know the building's there, but we don't know like what's inside, like what are the walls, like what's the fire rating of this wall, those kind of like things. Wow. So we had to do the whole thing from scratch there, but it all worked out. And the really old and Cambridge is the 3 small towns have really historic town centers. So it's cool just to have that, the old parts of town, but doing like new things like such as craft brewing in, well, brewing's really old, but the have a tap room as well in a manufacturing space can sometimes cause like, the different zoning confusions, that kind of thing of like, well, are you a bar or are you manufacturing, like those kind of things. So you kind of have to convince or talk it through with people with the city to see like how, to approach your project, kind of thing.
Gotcha. Interesting. You'd think that would kind of be figured out by now with so many breweries around with all the different cities, but yeah, maybe not. Interesting.
Yeah, well, you were saying earlier about the Tri-Cities, and Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge has a lot of great breweries in it, and
It does.
the region is, yeah, for sure. I saw you had Farm League on a few weeks ago, and they're a new addition to the town, which is great, and so yeah, there's a lot of great breweries in the area, and everybody's. And one thing that's great about Cambridge too is every brewery that's in town is completely unique from the next one. Everybody's got their own vibe, their own focus, their own approach to what they're doing, and it's really great to have such a wide variety and diverse range of breweries that exist in the area. So everybody's bringing their own approach and their own philosophy to brewing and that kind of thing. So it's really cool to see everybody kind of grow together and have their own approach to everything. So
Hell
really
yeah.
cool.
Love it.
That's
So
cool.
then, yeah, man, Cambridge seems it's really like it's popping right now. So in 2019, you said that it was you opened. What did that landscape look like? Like how many breweries were in the city?
That's a good question. There was 2 or 3 when we started, I think.
Okay.
Forefathers was there, I think. Barncat was there. Grand River was where the farm league is now.
Jackass
Grand
was
River.
probably there.
That's right. I think they opened 6 months or a year before we did too. So yeah, Jackass was there too.
Mhm.
So that's about 4 or 5 there, yeah, with us in there.
Okay.
And then yeah, there's been a few others too that have come on board afterwards as well. So it's great to have everybody doing their thing.
And I guess they all welcomed you, as breweries tend to do. Everyone was super welcoming, and there's a nice little kind of like camaraderie in the city.
For sure, and especially at our opening time, we had everybody at the bar was like another brewer from the area. So like our first opening weekend, we had like just brewers in the space. It was super cool to like have everybody welcome us and welcome us to the community, and it was awesome. And
Yeah, that's great.
I've kind of brewed around Ontario, so like kind of coming back home and starting a brewery here in the neighborhood I grew up, has its own value there for me. And then seeing all kinds of people from the industry coming into the brewery to welcome us open was really rewarding, for sure.
Love it. That's sick, man.
Yeah,
That's cool.
So
great.
when you opened,
On
you go first, Nate. You go. I've been yapping.
Oh, I was just going to say on that note, just keeping an eye on the time, we should probably crack the next beer as we continue on there.
I like
sure.
this. We're doing a bunch tonight, folks. So this is up to you, Scotty. It's up to you, mate. You tell us what we're doing. You're in charge.
Well, let's mix it up. Let's do the Anomalous Saison. This one is nice. This one's
Hell
really
yeah.
fun.
All right.
Got this like alien spaceship theme thing to it.
Hell yeah.
Super good.
Saison,
this-
tell us about it.
This beer has a pretty fun history too. We brewed this beer. I think we brewed it in April or May our first year.
Mm-hmm.
Too. We did a traditional Belgian saison, and we did a separate batch of a hoppy saison that we called Anomalous, which was kind of like an alien themed thing. And then so it was basically like an IPA with saison yeast. So it was super hoppy. It had Sriracha Ace in it too, so it had like a little bit of like a dill character going on.
Hell yeah.
It was a really unique beer. It was more IPA like than saison like. And then so since 2019, last year we brewed this beer. So from 2019 to 2022, we didn't didn't brew it, and then I was just craving a saison. I just haven't, had one in a good one in a while. So I was like, I just got to make one. So we brewed this one as a kind of a revamped recipe where it is a traditional saison base that we dry hop with Motueka hops from New Zealand,
Hmm.
and super
Nice.
super orangey, like just a lot of orange and zest character comes through. Super easy drinking, smooth. Um, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
tropical fruit notes in there.
Yeah, big nose. Moteca's a good choice for a dry hop for this.
Yeah, and this year is actually I like this year's batch better than last year's.
What's
Last
different?
year's was great, but it had some grassy notes going on too, which is delicious too. But the fruit comes through way more this year, and it's complex yet simple, kind of thing, similar to the Lagerbier, where it has that kind of subtleties and just like the nuance in there. It's unique too, for sure.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I've been
Well,
drinking it a lot lately.
I'm excited to try it. Let's go, guys. Cheers.
Yeah,
Cheers.
cheers, y'all.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that Moteca works super well. I'm getting so much lime out of this.
Mm,
For sure,
yeah.
definitely lime too. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
I
It's
feel like
just
it's
it's super cool. It's like,
yeah. Wow, it's
sorry.
fascinating. I was gonna say you mentioned orange. I feel like I got the orange more on the nose, and then the sip it starts orange and then just moves into this lime, which I've heard
Yeah,
is was Moteca the hop that changes depending if you get the early or late harvest? Was that the one?
I think it is. I think it
Yeah,
is. That's the
the
like
catch
like
one.
that. That's the one where we've seen like the um yeah like the catch did Captain Early and Captain Late, like which was two different beers use like one using early season Moteca and one using late season season Moteca
yeah,
actually
very
have
cool.
some
I
notable differences in flavor. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, talking about this one though, the
Mm.
saison character is definitely is definitely there. I was getting big bubble gum on the nose, and that's coming through on the on the palate as well. I do definitely get the orange too. I also had pineapple on the nose. I don't know if if either of you guys had that.
Hmm.
For
Yep.
sure.
Now you
Yeah,
say it.
it's yeah. I've never really
Wow.
noticed that before. It definitely, yeah. The
Pineapple lime.
the
Wow.
yeast we use is the yeast we use is it's not like a DuPont kind of saison kind of thing where it has that's like spicy and pepper forward,
Mm.
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
I definitely love and absolutely adore those saisons as well. This particular one was kind of more of like the fruity and bubblegum side, I guess. So like I think that with the hops combined to make this really unique beer for sure.
Yeah.
And but yeah, the spicy kind of saison kind of character is very minimal in this one, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I like saisons. I don't drink them a ton. Like I find often they're quite phenolic, and I don't really like the. It's not the bubble gum. It's like when it starts to become like clovey and banana. But this is like such a great combination. Like you said, like you can tell it's a saison, but it's so IPA forward. I guess there's so much more, many more tropical notes in this beer than a typical saison would. And I don't even really think that I've seen that many dry hop saisons. Period. I don't know if you guys have seen many of that style.
It's definitely not a super popular style. It's
No.
very I guess I would say it's very niche, I suppose, in an already niche kind of category.
Mm.
Um, I've had I've had some great ones for sure. But it's not very common. It's something that we kind of just decided to do something that was a little different. Plus, it kind of matches the name and the branding and stuff about how it just being completely out there and it's kind of something that I didn't really think was going to be a big hit. It might just be like a part of our taproom board and people would come in and have some, but it might not have like a huge following. But it since last year, since we launched with the new branding and stuff, it's really really popular, and people ask me for it all year round. And
Huh.
I just like, you gotta wait till the spring. You gotta wait till the spring. That's when we're gonna do it. So it's really grown to be a kind of a unique thing for us. So we definitely going to keep it up every year, and we're a little late with it this year. Usually we do it in April, but it came out in May this year, so it might even last us all summer long. So
That's like,
especially if it's tasting like this, it's going to be perfect for the patio for sure.
oh yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
You always
definitely.
find I was in Montreal for a decade, so coming back to Ontario, I found, obviously in Quebec there's saisons, you can't, turn around without bumping into one type of thing. Whereas out here it seems quite few and far between. So I feel like this will probably scrap whenever, if I see one, I'm like, oh, the saison fans are going to be. It's not like they have a lot of options, so I feel like they can gravitate towards that, and it definitely scratches an itch for a niche group of people, whilst also would probably open the minds of a lot of people, particularly one like this that's like super approachable, and it doesn't have a lot of the things, say the things that I personally don't like in a lot of saisons. This doesn't have any of those things, so I feel like potentially the things that I don't like might be off-putting for some newer drinkers to the style. So this would be a great introduction to it, because it's a little, like you said, anomalous. It's a little different than the typical saison, but it's super interesting. And if they can get into it in the summer, mate, I can see this being a banger. Love it.
100%. Yeah, it's something that I just kind of it's just a really fun beer. It's just looking at it, tasting it, it's just completely unique on its own. Super fun. I've definitely been enjoying it since we released it, especially this year. It's just it's on its own level for sure. It's way
It's very cool, man. So when you opened 2019, what, I guess, two-part question. One was, which beers or styles did you open with, if you remember? And two, when you were going into the brewery, what were your intentions? Like, what were you looking to do? What, some breweries, we do haze, we do lagers. Like, was there uh, a mission, or sort of like, we are gonna fit this little box or make this type of stuff?
Yeah, like that's a great question. I went in with like a really broad, kind of approach where I know might sound kind of it's kind of like I kind of brew what I feel like, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's kind of like I want to do something completely unique and off the wall, and other times I want to brew like another beer we have here, our Amber Ale, right? Just something straight up delicious pub kind of beer. You just want to have some of this while you're just chilling out, you know. So when we opened it, I kind of just wanted to do our own thing where I don't feel like I don't really like getting put in a box, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like I kind of want to just brew what I think is dope, and like sometimes that's a dry hop saison, and sometimes that's a super big hoppy double IPA, and then literally the next beer we come out with is a filtered light beer 4%, like you know what I mean, like that kind of thing. I just didn't. Well, my approach to brewing and my personal philosophy is just every beer kind of stands on its own and has its own story and its own reason why we think it's cool. So sometimes it's something super artisanal, and other times it's something something smooth, easy drinking because you just want to have a couple pints and hang out or golf or chill out in the pub or whatever it is. So when we opened, our first beer was a Hellerbach, 6.7%, called First Brew. It was a very difficult first brew for sure. Even with all the experience that I brought to the table, and we, as everybody knows, when you're putting a new system online, there's always going to be some quirks and things wired differently or whatever the reason is that can happen where your first brew coming out can be a little weird. Our flow meters were not dialed in, so I thought I had more work in the kettle than I actually did. So we had to adjust that after the fact. But then our first beer came out 6.7%. So it was like a really, really long brew day. It was way late into the early morning. we started at like 9 in the morning and we went to like 3 or 4 in the morning the next day.
Jeez.
Just it was a
Oh
really
wow.
difficult brew, and but the beer turned out wicked. It was so delicious. It just kind of was a delicious beer. And then so when we opened our doors, we opened with um, well, it was St. Patty's Day weekend, so we had a like an Irish themed stout. But that also was there was also some issues that came up with that one. It was a good beer, but it was obviously wasn't what I was hoping. But took us a few turns of the brew house to kind of dial everything in, and had some of the contractors come back to fix a few things that weren't working 100% when we were starting. And then once we hit that, I was like, okay, we got to brew something hoppy now. I wanted to kind of make sure everything was dialed in and everything was working right before we jumped into the New England IPAs and all that kind of stuff was still kind of new at that time too.
Yeah.
So it was definitely popular in the States and it was gaining more popularity here. But so what I wanted to do is make sure we really had our process down and we knew like kind of everything would be amazing when we launched with one. We brewed I think it was called Heart of a Lion, super easy drinking, hoppy pale ale. So a New England pale ale, super delicious. And then I didn't know how it would turn out because it's my first time, dry hopping in a certain way and a first time like doing New England stuff. In 2017, before that, I was mostly just doing like West Coast IPAs and stuff were really popular. So when first time doing that kind of thing was at the brewery here, and it was absolutely stellar beer. And I was like, okay, like if our hoppy beers are going to be this good, we got to brew more of these for sure.
Hell yeah.
So we just been hitting the New England IPAs ever since, and we do the odd West Coast now and then. I kind of get the craving for that resin like everybody else. So sometimes we do that kind of thing, but most of the beers we do are New England style, juicy, hazy, New England stuff. So we kind of just brew what we feel like, and sometimes that's something wicked and off the charts, and other times it's something super simple and we kind of just if I think it's interesting, and it's something I've always wanted to try or something I've always really enjoyed, and that kind of thing, I'd love to try my hat at it.
Sick. I imagine that I was thinking that it probably would have been a lot of haze. I feel like Cambridge was sort of like I was about to say known for haze. Maybe that's not even fair, but maybe the drinkers in the region were warmed up to the style, like you said. 2019, it had been around for 2 to 3 years in Ontario, but very slowly. Like it was a slow rollout. But by that stage,
well, and then in particular, like particularly in Ontario with Barncat being the forerunners of of that in the province, like the region definitely would have been hungry for it like by the time you guys opened, would be my impression.
For sure. Yeah, like it was great to have customers coming in and wanting to experience our interpretations and our approach to kind of how we thought, the kind of or what we could do, I guess, in that category. So we definitely have people in the region were just hungry and thirsty for this stuff, and I absolutely love it too. And I'm glad that we brew some really delicious versions and its own. And our kind of approach can be, our approach to brewing can sometimes make just pure juice bombs for sure. Just like absolutely just explode with juiciness coming right out of the can, which is awesome. So that's something, again, when we were building up the brew house, I wasn't too sure like exactly how to, or I kind of had the theory down, but then I bought the equipment and kind of put it together in a certain way that I thought would get good results. And so when we started getting really amazing results coming from our first few brews, we were like, wow, this is wicked. So like we just kind of I've been learning and tweaking since 2019, and every time we brew one, which we always have one around, so we usually one or two. So usually we've got like a pale ale and an IPA, or a IPA and a double IPA kind of thing. So we always try to keep one around. So we brew them maybe once a month kind of thing. So like basically every month I'm kind of like making it better and kind of what did I like about the last one? What didn't I like? And what would I change? and we're using these hops now. So that's how does that change and all that kind of stuff. So it's always fun trying something new.
Yeah, for sure. On that note, with the new stuff, you know, obviously there's a lot of pressure, I guess, on breweries, you know, to always what's new, you know, for the untapped crowd, or just, you know, people are always looking for the new. What's your like approach to that, whether it's New England's or otherwise? Like, do you have, obviously you got the Lagerbier, which is, from what it sounds of, it's year round, and then
Yeah, we keep 3 beers year round.
okay,
The Lagerbier, Orion Amber Ale is pretty much year round. Um, there might be like a month or something that we don't have it because of like production scheduling and so forth. But it's pretty much a year round beer, and that's just by like popular demand too. Like if we don't have it, people let me know, hey,
like what's up?
where's the amber? You're out of amber now. You gotta get that going again. So it's a popular
hilarious.
beer too in its own right. So we try to keep that around year round now. And our Oath Stout, which I don't think I sent to you guys, but we have I might have a can kicker around here. It's like a heavy metal themed stout that we've been doing since the beginning too, and it's a super easy drinking stout too. It's we keep that one year round, and we've got people even drinking stout on the patio in the summertime kind of thing. So
Sick.
we got some accounts we serve it on nitro at the brewery, as well as a carbonated version in the can and on tap. And we have a few pubs that sell the nitro version around
That's a
town
nice
that
touch.
keep it year round. So we keep the oat stout year round too.
Smart.
Yeah.
So then for the other stuff, say for the haze, with regard to that, do you have a few different brands that you do in rotation, or every single time you do an IPA, is it brand spanking new? Like, what's the approach there?
Most of the time, we come up with something brand new. We have revisited some of the classics that we've done. We've done one with Citra and Mosaic hops called Electric Wind, and we've done that a few times. Here's the step. Thanks. My wife just handed me the step.
Oh, look at that.
It's like this, like,
oh, that's hectic.
for sure. I don't know. Like it's
There
like
you go. That's
super
perfect.
like heavy metal, like Tool inspired, thing.
That's a cool can.
But the IPAs are like, we kind of want to do a new thing every time and just try new combos, try new fun techniques and stuff, and fun, things going on with the beers. But most of the time we do something new, but sometimes we throw back to, it also depends on like what hops I can get and what I have on hand. And if I feel like kind of throwing, I'm like, yeah, that beer was a good beer, man. We're going to make that one again, and just do it,
Sick.
And I guess leading up to the next beer would be these Tropics beers we brewed for our 4th anniversary.
Yeah.
We did 4 completely separate batches, so they were like, for us, it was definitely an ambitious project. Having 4 IPAs for us at one time is a lot. Our batch sizes are we do 15 barrel brews, and our tanks are double the size too, so we can put 1 or 2 batches into a tank. So for us, we had 60 barrels of IPA at one time, so that's definitely a lot for us. And but it was so worth it, and it was a lot of work. We worked a lot of long hours in a very short period of time. All the dry hopping and all the brewing and the processing and canning and kegging of 4 separate big IPA batches for us was like super intensive, like 2 months straight of just the brewery smelling like IPA, which is great. But it was a lot of work, and I was exhausted by the anniversary party. I was so tired, just the amount of work it took. But it was so worth it. And so we did 4 separate batches, but we put 1 IPA with no fruit, and then we did a grapefruit, blood orange, and peach purees to each of the separate fermentations to create its own unique spin on it. And they turned out wicked for sure. And so these came out at the end of March, so they are a little they're still tasting great, but they have a little bit of age on them now, but they're still tasting great.
we'll get the idea. Should we move on to get started with those, Nate?
Yeah,
What
well,
do you think of time?
since
Might as
we've
well, right?
since we've teased them so much now, we should crack into one. Which fruit
For
do you
sure.
reckon we should crack open first?
Ooh. It's kind of fun to see like how people have like enjoyed them, and like I ask everybody who orders like which one do you like the best? Like if people have a flight, I'll be like, which one do you like? And some people are like, oh, I like this one, or I like this one. My own personal take is I think the peach is my favorite of the four. Um, I think the peach puree we used was the most flavorful and aromatic fruit of
Mm.
when we were, adding the puree to the beer. I was like just exploding with the flavor and the aroma, and the brewery just smelled like peaches. It was huge. But if I was going to say the best quality one, I think the blood orange is the best, like of the four.
Hmm.
Even though I think I like the peach better, I think the blood orange like quality was just it's top notch.
Okay.
And on tap at the brewery, the grapefruit is the most popular. So it was kind of
Hmm.
like
Huh.
it was kind of all over the map of like what everybody thinks about it, I guess.
I'm fascinated with these,
Why
man.
don't we do the blood orange?
Blood orange. Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
This is a super. When I saw these, I was like, "Oh god damn!" Like this is like, of course, as you described it, it was a massive undertaking, which is obvious. But the idea, just before we sort of get into, where did the idea come from to do three? I've never seen anything like this before. As far as like a same base times four, three fruited, one not. Like that's pretty unique. And fruited IPAs in and of themselves, I don't even think see a ton of those around as well. Like what's the deal?
Yeah, they're not as popular as even before. You'd see the odd grapefruit IPA or something like that on tap, and
Yes.
it wasn't.
Yep.
It wasn't even like I haven't seen them in a long time, and I was like, what happened to those? And I know for sure from a brewer's perspective, it's just I know what happened for sure. It's just they're really expensive to make. Using a lot of expensive hops and expensive fruit, and especially now with like inflation and everybody like tightening belts and stuff, so it's like nobody really expects you to do it. And I think that's kind of what drove me to do it, was that it's our fourth anniversary, and doing four different beers was something I thought would be a fun idea. And then I'm like, I haven't seen anything like this in a long time, and I'd love to just have something like that again. And especially with the New England style too already being super juicy, I thought it would just add like a lot of I thought it would
like
be
a little
unique.
nuance and
And
depth. Yeah.
we did for sure. And we did a 4-pack at the brewery. So like I kind of pictured people coming in for the anniversary party and kind of like grabbing a 4-pack for home kind of thing. So I thought that could be 4 separate beers, but have it be a similar theme.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a cool approach
Yeah.
to the anniversary this year.
Definitely.
Yeah, man, super unique.
It's
Yeah.
it's got it's got a gorgeous pour, like
Yeah.
really really nice thick haze, and like for a couple of months on, like appearance wise, it's looking pretty good. So am I right that like all 4 beers, including the base, it's the exact same IPA, the only difference being the hops. So like right down to the hop bill, Azaka, El Dorado, Mosaic, that's the same throughout all of them. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, we did the 4 separate brews, but we did the same recipe, same hopping, same dry hopping techniques, same temperatures, same like amounts, those kind of things. The only real differences would be the fruit added, and it was actually kind of fun. I've never really brewed, the same, the same IPA recipe 4 times in a row. So that was kind of, by the 4th one, I was like, this is like, it's just kind of like a routine almost. Like it was just kind of fun to just kind of try something like production wise that was kind of similar like that, and kind of seeing how the individual fermentations reacted with the different fruits and how that would, work out. And, they all turned out like awesome.
Hell yeah.
And super thick head on them, and it's just pure juice for sure.
Yeah, big
Low
bright nose.
bitterness. Yeah.
Boys, cheers.
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 Have a taste.
Okay. That's sitting nice, bro. Yeah.
For sure.
What am I getting here? It's got
And
a nice
especially
chalky. I love the chalkiness.
100%. It's like super nice, man. It's just like, yeah, just the beautiful haze to it, the thick head, the lacing, just the low bitterness, the juiciness comes through a lot. And especially it being like some of these and for the anniversary party too, we started releasing them at the beginning of March too. So we were releasing kind of one a week throughout March. So I think it went grapefruit, blood orange, then peach. So the peach would be the latest one. But I had a grapefruit last night I did a brew last night, and I was squeezing the floor down and opened a grapefruit can. It's just tasting wicked, man. It still tastes great. And especially when it was fresh though, it was really just exploding of that fruit flavor. And especially with IPAs, after you package them, it usually needs about a week to kind of rejig itself and to kind of really, really start to shine. And so when we first packaged, and it was kind of like the fruit flavor was there, but it wasn't like super pronounced. So even as it was going on, and then once the anniversary party hit, like all the beers were just prime, exploding right out of the glass. So it was super super fun to see how like after like say 3 weeks in, like how did the fruit flavor just started to really explode out of the glass.
Very cool. Go on.
So I got a question about about how. So when you're lining up beers that are going to get 3 different fruits added to them for for 3 different beers, how did the thought process go to land on this hop combo? Because I imagine you need to think a little bit about how the flavors of the hops are going to work with the fruits that you're adding, and when you're adding 3 different fruits, you need to think about how they're adding in different ways. Can you talk about how you landed on that hop combo?
For sure. It was kind of fun, where I was just like, should they be separate hop bills that complement that fruit really well, or should it be all the same with the different fruits? So like, what do we want to highlight? Kind of was the way I was thinking about it, where we could highlight that fruit, or we could see like how it changes. And I eventually landed on to see like how does the different fruit change the beer, rather than doing something to emphasize that specific fruit. So I think both approaches would have been cool, but I kind of thought doing the same recipe 4 times with the different fruits would be a cool idea.
Yeah.
In regards to the hop combo, it's just, I've used all 3 of these hops before. Mosaic being a personal favorite of mine. We've used Azaka too in the past. Eldorado we've used once. We actually did a grapefruit IPA a few years ago that had Eldorado, and I think, oh man, what was it? Might have been Idaho 7. I can't recall what it was, but 2 super grapefruity kind of hops. So we did one, I did that a few years ago, and then so I kind of kept that in the back of my mind. It was super good beer, and so I was like, well, that's kind of where the inspiration came from, like seeing the different fruits and stuff. And I already knew Eldorado would add a unique kind of dimension to it. And Mosaic and Azaka are really they're all really unique hops in their own way. They play together super nice here. So it's kind of I just was like literally going through a list of hops. I'm like, what do I know as being super tropical hops? And with the tropics being the name of the beer and the theme, and then the island you could see going on here with the different fruits and stuff on an island theme kind of beer. I was like, once our artist presented the labels to us as like what they look like and how they feel, I was like, okay, it's like super tropical theme. What are the tropical hops that I know would be super unique and to contribute a lot of unique tropical flavor without being just kind of like I love the Citra Mosaic combo. It's like one of my favorites, and it's super popular. But I wanted to see which. I kind of want to do something a little different. I kept the Mosaic in there, but I wanted to try a few different other tropical ones too.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
You can't go wrong with the Citra Mosaic, and I feel like El Dorado it's got a nice little dankness in there as well that kind of goes well with the citrus. And I know that this is the citrus one. The other two, well, grapefruit is, and like peach, I'm actually very curious to see how it interacts with that. Were you surprised with the way that the hops interacted with the different fruits? Like, was there any like, oh shit, like, you know, there was some sort of fascinating like result from any of them that you didn't expect?
For sure. And you mentioned the dankiness from El Dorado adds a little dimension there. We did the first batch was tropics with no fruit,
Mm-hmm.
and it was it has a lot of those more. It's still really tropical tasting, but the El Dorado shines through a little more in that batch, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, that was really surprising for me. I really liked. Yeah, they're all kind of really unique beers, even though they're like the same base recipe. So like the fruit contributed a lot of uniqueness on its own. So that's what really surprised me is like how distinctive they are in the four. Mm-hmm. So say you work someone who came in and grabbed a 4-pack and took it home. They don't all kind of taste the same. They definitely stand on their own. They're definitely similar, but it's cool to see how distinctive they are. And maybe we can open another one. We could see like
yeah. I'm super curious.
Let's do it.
What do you reckon?
How about peach?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Peach is one of my favorite fruits
nice.
in beer, period. So this was the one that I assumed I would like the most. On the question, sort of Nate asked about the hops. I got the same question, but about the fruits. What led you to blood orange, peach, and grapefruit? Oh yeah, I didn't show the can.
For sure, I'm a big fan of peach and beer as well, so I knew that one was going to happen for sure. And we've used this peach puree in a peach fruit beer we did a few years ago as well. So I knew the puree was already good, and I already knew it was going to create a unique beer. Mm-hmm. So I knew peach was going to be for sure. Grapefruit and blood orange. A friend of mine just said, I love blood orange, man. You should make one of those. That should be one of the fruits. And I said, okay, dope, done. So I think it was just like a recommendation from a friend. And I was like, okay, dope. Sounds good. I looked on my list. I'm like, yep, they have it. I'll grab it. No problem.
Let's go.
And then the grapefruit was one that we've done in the past that I knew was good. I found that the grapefruit puree that we used this time around, it was the same brand, but I felt like it was a little... I found that the grapefruit was the least bold in the fruit flavor. Mm-hmm. So it's still a great beer, but I think the hops and the IPA shine through a little more in that beer.
Okay. Interesting.
So choosing those, yeah, like I knew it was good quality, but this time around the puree smelled and tasted a little less aggressive than a few years ago.
Okay.
So it's great, but it was just the least aromatic, I guess, out of the three that we used.
Kind of sounds about right, but I always think grapefruit's pretty like aggressive. But then again, you mostly see it. I feel like it's competing against some pretty top notch hops right there that it's got to cut through. So it's I'm curious to see how that goes in comparison. So peach, gentlemen, cheers.
Cheers.
Twinsies on the glass, Nate.
Oh yeah. Shouts to Hayes House.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh man, peach is the best. This works so well, man.
Oh, that's awesome for sure.
So they're all 6.2%.
Yeah, the fruit ones all turn out at 6.2. Mm-hmm. The tropics was 6.3, so very very minor difference.
Gotcha.
But Yeah, 6.2. I wanted something a little, on the lighter end of the range too for these, just so that the alcohol if any alcohol flavor did come through, I wanted to really be about, the fruit and the hops kind of shining through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I kind of leaned to the lighter end of the range, and I kind of just let it do its thing. It was that first batch. It was a new recipe, kind of trying something new and seeing like how, it all worked out. So I was like, okay, it'll be in that lighter end of the range. Perfect. So kind of just kept that going for the rest of them. Mm-hmm.
That's money. Nate and I always say, like, actually, no, I can't speak for you, Nate, but my personal favorite range is between 6 and 7 for IPAs. It's just, I feel like you can have a few of them without getting too lit, and they've got often, if they're made right, they're damn near just as punchy as an 8%er. I just feel like it's the
for sure.
the zone.
Definitely agree.
Particularly for this, I mean, you're out. This is like clearly, obviously, an anniversary. It's a fun thing, which is the best part about brewery anniversaries. They're always fun, and look at the cans. It's bright, it's tropical, it's sunny. It's something you want to kind of crush, and that really wouldn't work as well, I don't think, in a base that was 8+. I think this is like the money zone, dude. I think you delivered on this. This is just fascinating.
I think I would agree with
Thanks a
that.
lot.
This is a good zone, like for something, as you're saying, aims to be kind of tropical. Makes it's making you thinking of something kind of crushable and juicy. It doesn't need to it doesn't need to really punch quite as hard. But like where we differentiate on that is that my preference tends to aim a little bit higher. I tend to think that on most hazy IPAs, the money zone is somewhere between 7.5 and like 8.2. I love double IPAs. That's where my preference tends to lie. However, and it's not really, and it's not from an alcohol perspective. It's more from a body perspective. When it comes to IPAs, I like it. I like a bit of a kind of a more robust body on them. However, I'm finding that brewing techniques on that must just be advancing, because some of my favorite breweries doing that are really dialing that shit in, where a 6.5%. New England is starting to drink with the body of what a double would have,
Yes.
Maybe 2 years ago, and even the doubles are also kind of meeting somewhere in the middle, because the carbonation is starting to get dialed in a little bit more, where it's got some kind of a beefier malt bill, but it's being balanced out by carbonation, which is helping it drink lighter without compromising the body, which I think is just great. So you can have really enjoyable sides on both end of it.
Well said.
100%. Totally agree. We brew double IPAs. We don't do them often. I absolutely love them, and in my opinion, there are some of our best beers that we've ever done are double IPAs. We don't do them often, but when we do, we nail them. They absolutely are big bodied, big, juicy, hazy, just crazy good. I honestly can't even tell you why we don't do them as much as we do. When we do it, it's special, I guess. So it's when we do one, we know where it's gonna be. It's gonna be bomb, and they sell out like crazy, and it sells fast, and they especially with our new artwork, like the branding is bomb on them. It's super good.
It really
it's
is.
Super cool. It's
Yeah.
great, but I enjoy them. I like them a lot. I'm not too sure why we don't do them more often, and I hear it all the time. You got to brew more of this stuff, and we do it when we can, and it's usually in the fall, to be honest, is when I start to kind of crave them myself. So I'm like, oh, we haven't done this in a while. We gotta brew one of these, and usually the fall, kind of sometimes in the winter, maybe January kind of thing, we might come up with one, maybe two a year, and they're wicked. It's just we should do them more, but we only have three tanks at the brewery, so sometimes it's production scheduling, and the Lagerbier is in the LCBO now here in Ontario, so it's like
Sick.
which is great. So that's kind of like throwing a unique, production kind of requirements stuff. We got to start planning out those kind of things. So when we get one on our brew board, we're kind of like, what are we gonna do? I have it written down. I just got to find like the right time, I guess, to do it. And then I'm like, all right, now's the time. We're gonna do it. It's gonna be wicked. So
That's
yeah,
dope.
I really enjoy them too.
While we're talking about high ABV beers and anniversary beers, I want to talk about last year's. I think it was last year's, or or it might have been the year before. You'll tell me, I'm sure. But there was one in particular that like a pair of beers in particular that really caught my interest and prompted me with high interest to place an order was waffles,
Oh,
which I think
wobbles.
was. Which I think was like a 9% strong ale with waffles and maple syrup and one blueberry one. Is that am I remembering that right?
Yeah, that was fun. That was our last year's anniversary beer.
Okay, it was last year.
It was also like kind of a launch for our new branding as well. Our
Okay.
our new artist was
Find that.
we just started working together at that time, and she's like, well, what do you want to like be the first one? Well, our anniversary's coming up. We want to do something that is a little bit out of the box than we usually do. Pastry beers are still super popular, but they're really bumping at the time. And we do imperial stouts every once in a while. We've done two or three now. Um, Excuse me. I really enjoy them. I love imperial stouts, but I kind of wanted to do something a little different, kind of more in the barley wine kind of territory rather than the stout for the waffles. So I was like, we just want to do waffles, and we're gonna use waffles in the beer. Use maple syrup. We went to a local in Elmira. We went to Elmira to get the maple syrup from they were fresh from the tree. They were processing it like when we were there, and I was like, hey, I'm
That's sick.
Scott from Waybaker. I called you about the maple syrup. They're like, oh yeah, here's some right here. Poured it right in, and then that kind of thing. It was really cool. Got it fresh and went back and brewed the beer with it, and it was cool, man. Yeah, I wanted to kind of like do something in the pastry realm, but have it be something kind of cool on its own. Yeah, yeah. So we used real
Yeah.
waffles in it too. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
I'm
I
trying to
I
find it.
I think
Did you
that's
enjoy them?
oh, I loved them. I thought they were great, and I think you were maybe right on the money. Like kind of thinking more in the barley
Ah,
wine realm, than the stout realm. Not to say that that hasn't been done in stouts really well. Um, uh, it's one of those things I've had stouts like that before that have had waffles and maple syrup in them and whatnot, and I just like stouts on their own are are already pretty heavy, and kind of when throwing in those whole ingredients, sometimes I find they can get really cloyingly sweet really fast, and it's one of those things of with big stouts when they're so sweet that my teeth start to feel like they're rotting as I'm drinking them. I find them really hard to enjoy. But for some reason,
Hmm.
it can something cuts through it a little bit more when in the barley wine realm, and it feels like it can withstand a little bit more of that, and that was my experience with waffles. I was really really interested in it because strong ales are not something that you see very often anymore. They're
yeah.
very, very few and far between. That was really popping
Hmm.
in maybe like 2014, 2015, but
For sure.
2022, yeah,
Ah,
that's what
there's
we're
the
talking about
waffles.
right
Yeah,
there.
that's right. It was super cool, man. The beer, it tasted great. It was like the branding was cool. She was just kind of getting, trying to establish what our look is going to be too at the time. Yeah, the blueberry was really cool too. And
Yeah,
yeah, it was just really cool, man. Yeah, yeah,
So a
that
strong
was
yeah.
ale.
great.
Like
So it's like a barley wine, like you
you,
guys were saying. That's really what that is.
yeah, yeah. We were kind of going for a barley wine kind of thing. It finished at around 9.5%. We were hoping for something around like 10.5 or so. So like we kind of the beer finished at 9.5, and it was tasting good. So it was definitely in like the residual sweetness there from that difference definitely added to the pastry kind of approach to the beer. So it kind of actually worked out really nice. Where I didn't want it to be, it didn't turn out too sweet, and so that was really nice too. Kind of how it kind of just landed where it landed, and then when it just the flavor was really good. Yeah, we did, like I said, our batches are kind of a bit are big too. So like bars were really excited to have it, and so it was kind of like everybody that got some were like super happy to have it on tap, and it sold well, and it's a really unique thing, and the strong ales and barley wines and those kind of things aren't as popular as they used to be, and putting this unique spin on it kind of was like a fun approach for this beer. Yeah, it was really cool,
man. I love that. I love the approach. I almost feel like it takes more balls to do that type of stuff in Ontario, where it's traditionally not as common. Maybe I'm just thinking, even coming from Quebec, that like barley wines, they lose their minds over barley wines out there, whereas here it's pretty few and far between. When you can find one. So I think even doing something like that, like the strong ale, that's not only that, a strong ale, which is uncommon in and of itself, but then a pastry version is like, I know it's cool. I appreciate that. And I feel like there's like, it seems like the theme I'm getting here is that you guys are really hitting these like niche markets of people, with the dry-hopped Saison, and then these fun like fruited IPAs and this dope, I know they're anniversary beers, so they're not year round, but it seems like that. I imagine that's part of the intentionality behind everything, is more like the more unique, the better. And there's definitely certain groups of people that are specifically looking for something like that. And then a bunch of people that will come in for the amber ale, and then they'll try that and they'll be like, geez, what is this? This is fucking amazing. And, you blow some minds along the way. It's a very cool approach, dude.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate you saying that, because that's 100% what we're about, for sure, is just doing what we think is cool, and then just putting it out there, and then we cast kind of a wide net of what we do, and when the tap room's full and it's bumping, I look around and I see everybody's drinking different beers, and everybody has their own approach and preference, and their own philosophies when they're coming in. They kind of align with us, and we kind of just do just a wide range of stuff, man. And it's just whatever we kind of like, this is dope, this would be a good idea, let's put it out there. And then it always finds a home, it always finds an audience. We never sit on like a batch of beer kind of like forever kind of thing, because it like they always taste great, they always find a great place to serve, and we just do such a wide range of stuff, and it just always kind of works out to be something really cool. And the waffles is a good example of it kind of like standing on its own and having its own life, I guess. And people still come in and ask me about that. I had a guy maybe a month and a half ago, you still have any of that waffle one? Like, that was just a one-off kind of thing for the anniversary. He's like, oh man, that was so good, man, I really liked it. And so I even had a guy who's was last summer, he just recently turned 19, and one of his first beers was waffles, which is kind of like,
man.
No.
What a way to get into
it. That's a big start. That's a big start.
Sure. He was enjoying it, man. He was like, this beer's so tasty. Like, is this craft beer? I don't even know like what this is. And I was like, yeah, man, well, this is like a more like, this is like a good, bold, start, but like it's such a wide range of things, and it could be like, like a light beer, or it could be something like this. And he was drinking that all night and loving it. So like it was really cool to see like such a wide audience to enjoy your beers that you make. It's really rewarding.
That's great, man.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, then you're saying that like it's basically Cambridge. I imagine that a lot of your consumers, your audience, are a mix of maybe cats like us, beer nerds, super familiar. You come in there very intentional. I know you do fire haze, give me that Lagerbier type of thing. And then you probably got the more like neighborhood people that go just because they want to drink something, and they go to a neighborhood location that happens to be a craft brewery. Is that somewhat accurate?
For sure. Like literally anyone and everyone of every background, every every age, every like anything you can think of, everybody comes to the brewery and finds a beer they like, and that's 100% our philosophy. Is like anybody who comes in, you find a beer you like, you have a good time at the brewery. That's kind of like our focus, and we're more of a taproom focused brewery, so that's a big part of our philosophy. Is if someone comes in and says, hey, like, what do you got, I'm here to try your beer, and they don't find something they like at our place, I feel like I don't want to say failed, but I feel like I want to be able to provide something for them that they like when they decide to take time out of their busy week to come and have a good time at my place. I feel like I would love for them to find something that they do enjoy, and and it kind of aligns with my personal brewing philosophy too, where I kind of feel like brewing a light beer some week and then double IPA the next. So it's kind of like we cast such a wide net, and we get a wide audience because of that, which is great. And I love seeing everybody come in, and I've seen people who start off with something light and then they're like, hey, when's that new IPA coming out or whatever, like it's cool seeing people like their personal preferences and palates change too of regular customers. And we've got people who live just down the road, and I've seen them kind of like completely like just want something bigger and bolder and more like, it's really cool to see like how everybody palates change over their craft beer journey as well. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. So that was okay. That's great. That I was sort of the vibe, just chatting. What I'm getting there. So one thing that Nate and I talk about here a lot is that we think the most underrated thing in craft beer is gateway stuff. Gateway can be anything. There's no rules to it, but the idea is that the industry won't grow unless we get more people involved in what we need to be doing. We meaning everybody. The people online being nice to new people, and breweries making the effort to like, hey, oh, you're new to beer? Cool. What do you normally drink? Oh, you drink white wine? Okay, well, maybe try something like this, to ease them into it. So would you say that would you consider yourself like a gateway brewery in that sense, or like gateway very friendly and sounds like you're proactively going out of your way to make sure that people have a great experience and can find something that they like?
For sure. 100%. Yeah. It's super important to me that, if somebody's coming in for the first time and wants to experience what we're about, I do my absolute best to make sure they can find a beer that they do like to drink and enjoy. Say they are coming from the white wine world or the wine world, let's say, they like white wine, then, we do a sour Berliner Weiss called Dub Weiss, which is double Berliner Weiss. So it's about 5% kind of a tart wheat beer, and so it's not super sour, but it has a lot of white wine and cider kind of vibes to it. We do offer white wine and red wine sometimes, and cider at the brewery from a local cidery here just outside of town. And so we do have those options available. So if somebody's like, I just don't like beer, I'll be like, cool, well, we do cocktails and we do this other stuff too. And
that's important.
If you don't land on a beer, that's cool. We offer these other options. But I've seen some people who like cider and like wine kind of gravitate towards our sour beers, and we don't do them often either. But we do some really good fruited sours too, which are we did like a blackberry version a few years ago. We did a guava, which is people still ask me about, and probably going to bring back next year. It's super popular here locally is guava sour. So yeah, like I've seen kind of people who like more of the wine and the spirits kind of thing, and the cider kind of lean more towards the sour beers. And so we try to have those around as well for people with those tastes and that kind of thing.
Sick.
Yeah, I definitely see us as like it could definitely be like a gateway brewery in a sense, where when you do come in, you do find like something that you like, and can eventually, like I was talking about before, kind of graduate or gradually kind of gradually work towards something, wherever you feel like you're comfortable with and stuff. And it's super important to me that people find, a beer that they like when they come in. It's a huge part of like what we do.
That's cool, man.
Something that makes a lot of sense. Something that and like you used the term community hub earlier, which is something that I found notable with a couple of my local spaces here. And what I found to be particularly important with breweries that see themselves as community hubs is that like it has to be about more than just the deliberate beer drinker or or the beer nerd. It's one of those cases of if CRI are bringing a group of friends to one of these places, not all of those friends might be beer drinkers, and as long as and if they can feel comfortable there, if they feel like there's something for them there, then that really does work to make it a community hub. Is that you don't have to be a beer nerd to have to have a good time there, and to have and to have something that you're going to want to drink there.
For sure, it's super important. And there are breweries that have like a different philosophy, and that's great. Like I feel like people are like, we do this thing and we focus on these things, and that's wicked. Like I think that's awesome. And I think that definitely everybody has their own approach and their own thing, and I think all that is great. So you don't have to do anything other than your own vision when you're deciding to run your own brewery and do your own thing. I think that like for us and my own personal approach to it as well is there's definitely like a hospitality component to when you're running the brewery. Is like
Hmm.
where we're located and what we're doing is like it's I think it's important for us to make sure that we have a wide range of stuff, and just offer what maybe some other places aren't offering, and kind of do like I said, like if somebody finds something, when they come in they find something they like, I feel like I've succeeded. And I'm lucky enough that aligns with what I also want to make as well. So like I also feel like making these beers, and I feel like brewing them and perfecting them and making them better, and always kind of improving on what we're doing. And I'm definitely lucky that that also aligns with how when people do come in, they kind of see that vision as well, and they can see how kind of like how it all just kind of comes together. You know what I mean? For us, it definitely works out. And you know, definitely when I'm like searching out breweries and stuff, sometimes I just want to go to like a nice beer garden and have a nice lager. Other times I'm like, is there any like IPA focused places here? I'll go try like a wide range of IPAs and have like a good time. And like there's such a wide range of breweries out there with different philosophies and different approaches and stuff. And I think that's what makes like when you're doing like a beer tour kind of thing, having such a wide range of approaches of breweries in a city can lead to like an overall good day when you're going out and having a good time. If you're doing like a beer tour of Cambridge, let's say, you're hitting up all the breweries around here, like everybody's doing different things and everybody's got their own approach and stuff, and it just makes a good experience for like a beer tour. So I think
Yeah.
everybody doing their own thing and doing what they're passionate about is definitely what this industry is about. And and just make sure everybody's having a good time is a good thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
well said.
I think that's definitely true, and like you bring up a good point that with kind of the different range of approaches that there are in a city like Cambridge, uh, that actually makes for a pretty dope tour because you're going to be seeing something pretty different at at each place you go, which is pretty great. I mean, because if someone is going on one of those like city tours and whatnot, and if you hit three or four places in a certain city, and if you see something different at each place you go, that presents something pretty well for the city and for the region, I think. I've got a question like kind of similarly related to like to community in the beer scene, but it's a bit but it's a bit of an offshoot from what we've been talking about. But before I get into that, we should probably do a grapefruit tropics now, shouldn't we? If we're going to round out the
Oh, we
series here.
should.
Yeah.
Bring it
Great
home.
idea.
This peach is
Sweet.
fantastic. And one
Yeah,
thing
the
I'm
peach is
noticing,
great.
I just want to mention, was I think there's a whole lot of hop burn in here, which is one of my personal favorite thing in IPAs. And the good thing about hop burn or
Nice.
greenness is that it keeps that shit fresher for longer. So this doesn't taste
For sure.
its age. I mean, I know you said it's the freshest of the three, but very, very, like, it's fantastic as expected. So I'm excited for the
Thanks a lot.
grapefruit. Yeah, she is.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So we did the tropics first, then grapefruit, then blood orange, then peach. So this would be the oldest of these three fruit ones.
Okay.
But it's like I said last night, I had one last night as I was cleaning up. I'm like, this is still tasting amazing, man. It's still like, and one thing that was really cool too is that the grapefruit puree added a bit of bitterness to the beer as well.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
it's slightly more bitter than the other ones, but like a fruit bitterness and not a hop
Like a
bitterness, I
pithy,
guess.
like that pithy, like citrusy bitterness type of thing.
For sure. And
Yeah,
I
that's
only
sick.
have an Abbey glass left, so I poured it into this one.
You know what? I like
But
that.
it's
You
That's
make
all
your
right.
own
That's
rules.
all right.
You make your own rules.
You know what I gotta say. What I've noticed from from all three of these, and including this one, which is the oldest, like despite their age, the pour color is looking fantastic,
Oh yeah.
which says good things about your canning. You know, there's always there's always a chance for oxidation, particularly especially when you add some age to it as well. But these things seem to be holding up pretty well, which says good things.
For sure. We 100% dialed it in for sure. We have a canning machine called Workhorse Canning. They're from BC,
Oh, I thought you
and
meant that's what you
it's just the
named
kind of
your.
a
I thought you named your machine that.
oh yeah, it
That's
should
cool
get a
too.
name actually. We
Yeah,
haven't named it yet, but it should be called like a name or something.
I love it.
But yeah, the company's out in BC, and it's kind of like a guy like us, where it's just a husband and wife team who make canning lines, and super unique approach to canning as well. Like it's very simple, very like simplified. No bells and whistles, just straight up putting the beer in the can in a good way. It's really it's a great quality machine, and we've COVID and that kind of era was like definitely had us kind of shift our approach from draft to cans like a bunch of times throughout
Of course.
all the stuff that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to invest in something a little more faster than what we had. We had like a two head filler, which treated the beer very well as well. It was a very good quality two head filler that was we would manually seam the cans like by hand, and then fill them, and then take them out and seam them and label them by hand. We didn't have a label machine or anything. It was just kind of like we were just ripping that canning machine a bunch of times, like every day, just trying to like get as much beer out as we could during COVID. And we were lucky enough to can from a keg at that time with that little machine too. So when there was like a change that we couldn't sell draft anymore, we had to like can all our product and stuff. And so for that era, we had the right machine for the job. And then when things kind of started loosen up again, we were like, okay, well, we want to eventually do some LCBO stuff. We do want to eventually like get out there more with the cans and like do more of that kind of thing. And we got a great machine that treats the beer super well. And we've got like oxygen testing on it, and it's super low. And like we've just like the shelf life, especially for our IPAs, we did a single hop Simcoe IPA in the fall, and like I kept some cans around for that, and it's still like from like September or something, just holding up so great. And so like
Wow.
yeah, it's just for sure. So we've kind of got some nice equipment that we've invested in that treats the beer really well.
That's great,
sure.
man. Very important stuff. Well, first things first. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hell yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so the grapefruit is super subtle in this one. And that's going to kick in a second. We need a refreshment
Mhm.
drink.
Yeah, for
That just
sure.
tastes
I
like a
feel
nice
like
hazy
the
IPA.
grapefruit, for sure. I feel like the four or of the three fruited ones, the grapefruit was the least like punchy of the fruit character.
Yes,
And
okay.
I can see that bitterness I was talking about is a little more subdued now. But when we first launched the beer, it was like, it wasn't like aggressive, but it was like definitely a more pronounced bitterness was there from like a, almost like the pithy bitterness from like the zest of the skin
Yes.
of the grapefruit kind of came through a little more.
I feel like
Yeah.
if I swish it
Mhm.
around my mouth a little bit, I'm getting that grapefruit, that pithy grapefruit vibes. But it's like it complements the hops and everything else that's going on as opposed to sort of overwhelming it. And I met, like you said, it seems to be like, yeah, I feel like it's almost like it's like tougher. Maybe I'm bullshitting, but tougher for like a grapefruit to shine through a nice
Mhm.
hazy body with those three big hops. Like it's more of a challenge, whereas peach is a bit more unique and orange is a bit more. I don't know. Am I reaching?
I would say, I would say you're probably right on that, and it's all like grapefruit is also one of those flavors which is produced pretty commonly by like by a lot of hops. So it's
Good point.
like it's one of those things that like that tends to come through like with like with a lot of hop forward yeah, like dry hopped IPAs I would find.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, totally agree. I kind of find that this one just kind of complements the hop bill rather than shining through the whole beer. Like the
Mm.
peach one, for
Hmm.
example, like especially when it was fresh, was just like boom peach. Like it's just like this peach, and then the hops are there, and then it's a delicious IPA base. The grapefruit was the one that kind of blended in the most with the overall beer, and
Hmm.
added some other elements as well. And then just yeah, it's a nice one for sure.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like it's a
that's
solid
great,
like
man.
it isn't once again though, like being this was the first one of the fruited ones holding up this
Mhm.
well, what is it, 2.5 months, something like that. Maybe even a touch more
Mhm.
is impressive because I feel like typically haze. I don't know. You got 4 weeks tops typically for it to be in before it starts really dipping. But this is great, dude. And once again,
Mhm.
I think there's a bit of that hot burn in there. It's the New England IPA's best friend. It's so dope that whatever the hell causes that, because I feel like some people, I don't know if intentionally do that. I feel like it kind of just can happen. I don't know. Sometimes breweries are sort of like, yeah, we do this to do it, or sometimes I don't know, it's just there and it's great.
For sure. Yeah, like we did, if I remember right, it was like 6 or 6.5 pounds per barrel of hops.
Okay.
So it was kind of like on the higher, definitely on the higher end of the range for a regular IPA. And yeah, it was definitely when we first dry hopped it, and then if you we're lucky enough where we can try it right from the tank, and it's like those first few days, it's just like pure hop burn for sure. And so we take like usually we dry hop, and then we after a couple of days we dump the hops out, and then we let it mellow for a while, and then that mellowing period you can definitely taste it. I don't do this often, but when I was first starting to get used to how the recipes and all this stuff is working and all our equipment. I would taste it every day or every other day, kind of see how it mellows out and stuff. And so we give it like a certain period of time where we in the tank after dry hopping to let it mellow, and then we move it to the bright tank for packaging, and then we let it mellow again, and then we can it or keg it, and then we let it mellow again, and then we put it out to everyone. So it goes through a bit of a almost like a package shock every time you move the beer around. It needs like a bit of time to like mellow out again. And so
Interesting.
we're a little extra care. We take some steps to make sure that it doesn't like come out too green, I guess, because that green flavor is is delicious for sure, but it can sometimes be like really aggressive and really hoppy in a negative way.
Yeah,
So
I feel that.
I prefer mine a little more smooth. So we definitely give it the time to to mellow out and smooth in tank before we move it on. So I think those steps have kind of that we've kind of developed throughout our own brewing technique and our own brewing approach throughout the years we've been doing it definitely helps with that smoothness and all that stuff. Yeah, for
That
sure.
makes sense. That makes sense. And I would agree. I feel like hot burn to be, what's the word, like sort of where it, because there's obviously too much hot burn is kind of good for longevity, but then it means you can't drink it straight away. Maybe you need to let it sit a week or two before you can really get into it. But it means that a beer brewed in March or April is going to be okay in June, which is,
For sure.
I don't see that
That's
as
a
a
great
bad
way to
thing.
think
But
about it.
yeah, the funny
For
thing
sure.
was
That's
we
definitely
did
a great way to do it.
when we
I'm sorry.
first we did no, I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. We did a collab with Sawdust City in 2018, and that was before they did juicing, but they hadn't really like dialed in their haze yet, and they hadn't like really gone nuts with the dry hop. So we did that beer then. They put I've never tasted anything like it, to the point where it was still drinkable 6 months later because of the sheer volume of
For
the
sure.
hop, and it kind of got better over time, probably as the malt got sweeter, which is just tends to happen, but the hops kept the whole thing alive. So ever since that always like, I'm like, okay, kept my eyes. They've obviously dialed it in tremendously ever since then. But the yeah, I always sort of watch it. There's Miss Orem in Montreal, when they first opened, they were green as fuck. They were crazy. Some people just don't like it at all, but they now have got it down to the point. But I feel like there's probably a sweet spot, I guess, of like how green it can be so it's drinkable, and then it still gives it a little more longevity, because I just feel like haze is probably obviously my favorite style, but it's the most annoying, because if it's not in this, like every brewery, every kind of, even the beers in each brewery differ as far as like, well, this one is probably best between 2 and 4 weeks, but this one with a little more green or hot burn can probably last 2 months, and she's pretty sweet. So it's an interesting thing. And then there's palates, like you're saying, you're not a huge fan of it. I like some, but I've had some that burn, like it's like almost like garlic or something, like it just burns your tongue. So that's too much. So I don't know. It's funny. I find the whole thing kind of really
For
interesting, and maybe an inaccurate science, or unpredictable science of sorts.
Yeah, and I think I've had the idea of releasing one like immediately after dry hopping. So it's like the
Okay.
most aggressive hop burn you could possibly get. And I just wanted to like call it like something with flames, right? But what's funny enough is we just released a beer called Summer Scorcher, where we did an IPA with a local bar here in Elora called Handsome Devil. And so,
Oh,
which was really
I
funny
know it.
is that I didn't take that approach at all. It's like a super, super great patio crusher IPA. It's great. But I was thinking of releasing like a fire themed one that's just like the most aggressive hop burn. You got to drink it like today to get the most aggressive, like, have its own life and its own thing, right? And then
That's fun.
eventually it'll smooth up to be like something a little more palatable. But I definitely prefer the smoother and just letting it chill and mellow and doing its own thing and just kind of tasting it. Yeah, it's ready now. It's good to go. And then you kind of and every hops have, or different types of hops have their own their own life too, and
Mm,
different combos can sometimes
yep.
present a unique thing you didn't anticipate in the tank where you're like, okay, that was really aggressive. Like a good example for the past couple of years has been Sabro hops. That was kind of a new thing that kind of came out of nowhere, and it has its own unique flavor of coconut and wood and all these other kind of flavors where you're like, whoa, like what's this? This is kind of a new thing, and it turns out it's actually it's my wife's favorite hop too. So for our wedding, we got married, October a couple years ago. So we released our a wedding beer where which I chose my favorite hops at the time, which were Citra and Amarillo, and she chose Sabro. So we did this unique, beer for our wedding where we released it for our wedding was hosted at the brewery. So we had, our friends and family come by and try our wedding beer kind of thing. And then we also released it to the public. So we had our own wedding beer to for everybody to enjoy. And Sabro was a unique hop for sure. That was kind of like, what is this? This is completely unique. Like, how do you use this thing, and what kind of flavors does it provide? So sometimes a unique hop can also change. Like, okay, like my normal routine is a bit, it might need more time, or it's ready now kind of thing. So sometimes it just kind of has a life of its own that you need to kind of just let the beer tell you, what to do. Yeah.
I like that. Let the beer tell you what to do. That's almost the episode name. That's dope.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, I'll write that down.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, that's great.
We have to keep notes as we go because it's hard to remember because you're crushing all these beers. But overall, man, like I feel like you really, I know once again, like, you've made it clear that these obviously are, aren't in the exact state as they were in that, that peak period, but I feel like they're all sitting really well, and I feel like I absolutely understand what you were going for here. And I didn't know what to expect. Yeah, right? You feel that, right? I didn't know what to expect with fruited IPAs. Like I said, haven't seen a lot of them. Probably couldn't tell you the last time I had one. And I feel like these were like, it was clear that the actual base beer was like very well done and just like fire haze in and of itself. And then it was like, I don't know if understated is the word, but you used the fruit respectfully. Like you didn't like punch it in the face. You made it work with the melody of the hops, and I feel like you definitely nailed this, bro. This is, and it's like such an, I know, I love, Nate and I are both big fans of innovation. We always kind of joke about innovation in beer because some people, not so much now, but people used to get mad about anything fun in beer, lactose and smoothies and pastries,
waffles.
Waffles. And
waffles, exactly.
And you guys clearly do a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
And this whole just attempting something like this. Hey, here's this 4-pack base beer, 3 variants, boom. Like, I don't know, that's sick, bro. Like, just like well done on having the guts to do something like that, and just like it's just super fun. And I know, like you were saying, it's a pain in the ass, which I can only imagine, but bro, you pulled it off. Shit still slaps a couple months later. Hell yeah.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you guys saying that. Is that, like, it was definitely bold, especially for us with our size too, and we've got a very small team, and trying to do 4 different IPAs at once that taste great, that you don't really see out there. The fruited IPAs is kind of like, it's almost died off, and I remember being popular in Sculpin and Grapefruit Sculpin and those kind of, remember that back in the day when they first came out with that, and I was like, it was so good, right?
They were killing it.
I was like, man, like that kind of, the fruited IPA kind of thing kind of was around that time, and it kind of died off, and I was like, man, what happened to this? This used to be so good, right? Let's bring that back in New England style, and then also kind of like just super refreshing it a little bit, and do it for our anniversary, so people will come on by and do it all at once kind of thing, and do like a series at one time, and so yeah, it kind of worked out to be a really fun thing, and the beers are delicious and it's still holding up.
Yeah,
great. Like, it's just, I'm super happy with how it worked out.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and you just made me think of something too, like a series of fruited, of straight up fruited IPAs is not really so so much a thing. Definitely not a widespread thing. What is much more common, or at least has been since like 2017 or so, is a series of milkshake IPAs. Like if you if you take your Milk Shark or your or Bicycles milkshake IPA series, or any other brewery that's done like a milkshake IPA series or whatnot. Like the same thing, just with with different fruits and whatnot. But with milkshake IPAs, whereas there's not really as much of a thing to have like a straight up New England or even a West Coast like Sculpin or whatnot. Just with different fruit variants, that's really hasn't been as much of a thing, which is kind of wild to think about. To have that only just occur to me just now. It's that's really really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And milkshake IPAs are delicious, and I like them a lot. And the fruited versions too. I've tried a few, and I like them too. I think they're great. We've used lactose in some of our sours sometimes, and those kind of things. And I think sometimes it definitely enhances like the beverage and what your objectives are and stuff. I think it's great.
It can for sure.
We For sure, yeah. We've never done a milkshake IPA actually. Now that I think about it, um,
Ooh.
and not for any reason. Like I think they're good. I haven't really thought about doing one. Um,
Hmm.
the
Maybe we might need to
Yeah,
talk
like
about a BAOS collab milkshake IPA with Wave Maker.
yeah,
Bring it back.
yeah, that'd be sweet. Bring it back, man. Let's do
2017.
it.
Yeah, it's. When the last time
Yeah,
either of you
that's
have had one, I couldn't even tell you. Like maybe this year I might have had
yeah.
one, maybe, but I don't remember. I feel like it's like
Yeah.
it would stand out now, particularly if it's like a fun variant, like with like a cool fruit
I've,
combo and stuff.
Yeah,
yeah, like we've
yeah.
definitely had milkshake sours this year. Milkshake IPA, I couldn't say if I've had one in the year 2023.
Yeah.
hmm
All right.
It's like one thing that I like doing too is throwing back to the classics too, even if it's like something that you think is old school. Like like I want to do an ESB or something like that so bad, and we just got to find
Yes.
the
Oh
right time to
man,
do one.
do
It's
it,
just
do it.
like you for sure. We just got to like find the right time and like the right
Yeah.
I got to do the brand and like get things going, and then find maybe like the fall or the winter time or what have you, like the right season and the right time in our brew schedule and all that kind of stuff. Like I love just kind of like I was saying before, each beer kind of has its own life and its own thing, and it's like
Hmm.
it's good for a reason, and like people like it for a reason, and I think it's cool to kind of like highlight that, and even if it is like an old school thing or not like or whatever, it's just kind of like fun to kind of like this beer's dope and you know it's good and it just has its own life and its own story and its own thing to it. And I think these fruited IPAs are a good example of that, of kind of adding like a new life to something that was popular back in like 2015 or so. So it's kind of like cool to kind of like bring it back to like, hey, remember this? This was cool, you guys. Let's do this again. This was fun. So
Yeah,
Hey,
man.
nostalgia's in right now.
yeah,
Nostalgia's
Yeah, that's
everything.
dope.
It's
And you know
yeah,
what?
yeah.
It's not quite an ESB, but but on that note, I feel like we
oh
should at least move in the direction of that color and crack open our final beer for
Oh yeah,
tonight. What you
I feel
think?
like you're the Segway king tonight, Nate.
for
You
sure.
have been segueing out of your mind. I love it.
Yeah, man.
Orion, man. This
Oh
beer
yeah.
is very popular for sure. It's
So the last
super
time
fun.
yeah,
I'll
the
tell you
last
about it.
time I had this beer, it was not it was not looking this fire label that it's got that it's got right now. The last time I had this one, it was one of those ones that was a generic like wave maker label with like a printed
Ooh.
like thing
Did it
on
have
it
like the
saying
mug
Orion
on it or
Amber Ale.
whatever it was? Did
Yeah,
it have
yeah,
like the
exactly. But
space?
but now like dude, the label is looking dope right now.
Thanks a
Ooh
lot.
yeah.
Um,
Look at this copper
there we go.
gorgeousness right
Yeah,
here.
thanks a lot, man. Yeah, like this beer is really fun, man. It just kind of came of me just craving an amber ale, and I was like, I'm just gonna make one. Like I kind of miss this style, and I kind of just missed
Oof,
this thing, and then we put it
sounds
out there,
great.
and everyone's like, man, this beer's so good, man. You just gotta like keep doing it, and we sell a lot of it. It's super good, and
I believe that.
I'm gonna put it in this Belgian glass actually for
Yeah,
some reason.
do it. I like it.
And
Go
so yeah,
against the norms.
we've done like this the rebrand we did about a year ago, and our new artist is absolutely killing it with some of our I don't know, yeah, sorry, just my headphones, just I got one mic left.
Oh, you
Don't worry
good?
um
about it.
yeah, this beer's awesome. Can you guys hear me right now?
Yeah,
Sorry.
you sound great.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, just my laptop popped up with a note. um
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, man, this beer is wicked. It's just super simple. We start with like a lower gravity and it finishes super low. low residual sugar, but it still tastes like full, and there's a bit of like a caramel sweetness in there from the caramel malts that we use. So it's super like it finishes really dry, but still full and still light, but still kind of complete in a way. So and we filter it as well, so it's just super like super crushable.
Oh yeah,
Just you can just slam them back,
clear.
kind of thing. And
Yeah, man. Oof.
Yep.
Amber for the win,
yeah,
guys. Cheers. Get
Cheers.
that in.
cheers.
Oh, that's delicious. I feel like
Yeah.
Amber's like you're right. Like ESB though, like on that note that you mentioned the ESB is funny. We've said this a bunch of times on here, but it's been very interesting to us that a bunch of breweries who come on would send their ESB as a part of the conversation. Like that's the beer to start the podcast on, and it's always kind of been like, oh really? Like it's happened 2-3 times, and I feel like I'm seeing it more and more across, at the very least, Ontario, that breweries are really doing ESBs, and this is in the vibe. And like I remember my first ever favorite style in like 2011 was an amber ale, because it was the first graduation from a lager. You get out of the lager, you're like, yo, what is this? It's malt, it's toffee, caramel. Like it's like, I don't know, to me it's like you mentioned nostalgia, bringing it back to 2015. This brings it back to 2011 for me. Like it's just such a I don't know, I feel like this, you know what it's like, you know, once you get into the hype stuff, everything's boring except the hype stuff. But then once you get past that and you keep cruising, I'm like, oh, just like lagers are exciting again. Like this is super dope, and ESBs are super dope to us. So it's very interesting that I think it's cool that you said that, you know, you have people that are mad at you if this isn't on, and like, you know, amber ales seem to have a crowd. That's not the first time I've heard that about an amber ale. I find that
For sure.
fascinating.
Yep.
It's very common for sure. Like I used people who I might not have even seen before come into the brewery, and they're just like, "Hey, you got an amber?" Like, "Yep, we got one right in here. You know, this is it.
Come on.
Oh, can I taste it? Oh, yep, that's great. I'll take this.
Yep.
I'll take a 6-pack or whatever." Like like I think it's kind of like you know, it is like they are delicious, and it's kind of like just about kind of like finding, like I was saying before, like the beer you like kind of thing, and like the styles that you like to drink. And I feel that our approach is a pretty unique one with the amber ales. Like it's not very roasty, it's not very heavy. Sometimes they could be
No,
a
it's
little
very light, in
more
fact.
like exactly. We designed this beer to be really light, where the lightness is almost like the highlight of it, where there's no, like the caramel is there, it's smooth, it's crisp, it's like definitive on its own, but it's really light, but in a good way, where you don't get any of like, sometimes you get an amber ale and it's like really roasty, or especially if it's unfiltered. I find like like since we filter it, that definitely helps a lot with taking those elements kind of out of it. But sometimes it could be almost unpleasant, where they're really sweet, or they're really like roasty or something like that. Kind of, it might be a good beer, but it might not be like as like crisp, I guess. Where you can drink this one on a hot day in a patio, and it doesn't feel like heavy, or it doesn't feel like you sweat or anything. It's just kind of like a nice, definitive, crisp, like light amber ale that's kind of like its own unique thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, this is super tasty. Sorry, Nate, go
Yeah,
for
it is. No, it's all right. I'm gonna come back to like to something that I had meant to bring up like 2 beers ago, and you know how it is. The conversation goes where it goes, but that's fine. Gonna just I'm just force this in, swing it on back. Talking about just kind of the focus on community and whatnot, and looking through. I know I know you do a lot of community events there. And to throw back to 2020 for just a second, I know you guys were participants in Black is Beautiful, and I know at the time that you took it one step further even, and I know you had a fundraising event that was done with Lori from Allsauce. Can you tell us a bit about like a bit about that event? That was it seemed kind of cool in concept, and can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, like we definitely wanted to it's kind of like, what can we do, right? Like, um, well, didn't like we were planning an imperial stout at the time as well, so it kind of worked out to be like to kind of have that portion to be there, and then we were like, what else can we do, right? And um, the yeah, it was really, I'm really glad that it kind of the way we executed it and what we were able to accomplish with that. I think we raised, if I remember correctly, it was like $1,500 for the Black Lives Matter movement, and the various charities that we contributed to. And we did a fundraiser not too long after that too for the Nishikandaga band up in Northern Ontario for new water systems, new water filtration systems as well. At that time, we raised $3,000 for a fundraiser for that as well, if I remember right. And so yeah, that was a we kind of got together as a community of saying like, hey, what can we do to contribute, not only financially but also like our messaging, our policies, procedures. It kind of highlighted, since we are a small team and a small brewery, like we had to make sure we were clear with our messaging of what we stand for and what, you know, our policies are and our procedures, and making sure like everybody knows, like not just with that, but with everything at the brewery, of like, you know, what we're about, what our mission statements are, and what like our policies and procedures are. If there is anything that were to happen in the space, like people know that we have their back. Those kind of things at the time were, they were there, just maybe not like in writing and in our effective messaging to our patrons. And it might have been or it was internally like with staff, but it wasn't like we weren't really vocal of our position of or our messaging wasn't 100% clear of like of those kind of things. And then so all around that time was a great, you know, wake up call for the entire industry to make sure that you are being clear with your messaging, and that you aren't going to stand for anything that were to happen in your tap room or at events you're participating in, or because you know, when you get like 10,000 people together at a beer festival kind of thing, like you know, like you never know what's going to happen, and you got to make sure that events you're participating in and things that you are relating your brewery to, that your messaging is clear, and that you are being clear with what you stand for and what your ethics are and what your point of view is. And at that time, you know, the community kind of really rallied behind us of, you know, what can we do at that time to make sure that's clear, as well as, you know, what can we do to contribute to the community in these ways. And you know, we definitely learned a lot at that time about, you know, just making sure those things are clear.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's dope, man. There wasn't a ton of breweries in Canada, at least, you know. In Ontario, it wasn't so bad. Quebec was like 5 breweries who did Black is Beautiful, but a bunch did here. So it was really cool to hear like that. I think that the breweries that were drawn to it were definitely the ones that sort of had a, you know, direct, I don't know, like I was gonna say correlation, but more just like it felt right to do something like that, and you really wanted to, you know, support the community that supports you. And you know, give back and make sure that, hey, this is where we stand. We are, you know, we're with you guys, and it's very cool.
For sure. And
yeah,
being a small brewery ourselves, I found that we were unable to do it as quickly as we wanted to as well. If I remember at that time, I remember being like, I really want to do this, but it was it was also very it was I feel like we couldn't contribute as fast as we wanted to at that time as well. There were financial constraints and other things that were going on at that time in our scenario. Yeah, I'm glad we were able to contribute the way we could.
And look, as long
that
as
is good.
Whatever's right for you.
Yeah, Yeah, it is good that you found the means to do that in a way like in a way that worked for, like that worked for you and like in your business that still recognized the importance of like of kind of making like making that commitment to like to your community and to kind of make those values kind of publicly displayed like as you were saying, it's like it's important to put those things in words and make like and make those values known to anyone coming into your business. So I think
For
it's good
sure.
that even with like and those constraints that you mentioned are true of anyone in the business, but like for like to be able to find the means to kind of do what you can to still recognize the importance of it, I think is pretty key.
100%. And uh, even since that time, we've updated our policies and procedures even further. We've done
Good.
some training internally. Um, uh, you know, um, workshops and stuff that we've done internally, and uh, we've got our code of conduct on our website at the bottom. You can click the link and you can read everything you feel or everything's laid out there.
Dope.
And in our tap room, we have the code of conduct is clearly displayed on top of the bar. So if we make sure it's clear that if there are any issues, you're totally free to come to staff, and the staff has proper training on how to properly address these issues. Say it's not myself or anybody else is there, like we have proper procedures and policies in place, and all the staff is aware of things, the proper steps, and our expectations, and like management expectations and staff expectations of like running a safe and a community hub, like we were just talking about. Like anybody and
Yeah.
everybody's is welcome to come in here, and we don't stand for anything that doesn't fit in that realm.
Love that, man. It's really cool.
It's great.
I'm not sure if you've seen it around, but we have this non-profit called Link Up where we've been doing basically a similar thing. We were inspired by Black is Beautiful to do that, and do these collabs and sort of give back to the to the community by educating people to bring people into craft beer. And so to us, it was we were because we were so inspired by that. It was great when we saw the breweries that did it, and a bunch of really great breweries did, and it's like yourself, and it's so dope. But there was also so many that didn't. So I feel like there's so much work to do in that realm to sort of continue to get people just aware that, hey man, like craft beer can't grow unless we have everybody involved, and all those people need to feel safe, and that they're welcomed in the community. And it's like, even though I don't think anywhere, I couldn't imagine any brewery isn't welcoming to it, but just doesn't come across that way. So it's sort of almost, it does require these initiatives to be like specifically, hey, like this is not just white dudes with beards. This is for everybody. We're all here, whatever, wherever you are, come on in, So it's very cool.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. It's very important, and initiatives like Link Up, and it's really important to make sure that it's all clear for everyone, and and you can't control other people's behavior, but you have to make sure you're clear with what you expect in your space, and what you expect when you're participating in other things. And if I was going to another brewery, and if I don't see like that being a part of their culture, and what's going on, I think it's important to make sure that everybody knows that, like, it's important to make sure that this messaging is clear across the board to the entire industry needs. And I feel like a good portion has really increased their messaging to include, to make sure everybody feels welcome and feels included. I think that that's very important with just your entire culture and organization, and how you approach your messaging, and making sure that everybody does feel welcome and feel included is 100% important.
Couldn't agree more, my man. It's great, and it's really just great to see. And I feel like it's dope when I like seeing that there's sort of breweries, even if everyone's sort of like the breweries that participated, in Black is Beautiful, or even Link Up, everyone's sort of scattered everywhere, which is dope. So at the very least, there's someone in almost every kind of brewing region, not maybe every city, but every kind of region that have, that gets it, and that can just, it's like a brick by brick approach with all this stuff. And, that's what you're doing. And once again, it's really, I think the theme of this conversation tonight was the community hub. That really is what it is in all of these different ways, whether it's introducing people to beer who are new, or welcoming people from different backgrounds who typically weren't exposed to beer, and just be like, hey man, we got something for you. Like, it's all good. Like, come in, we'll hook you up. Well, you don't, no worries. We got wine, we got cider. It's okay. We got cocktails. We'll take care of you. You have a good time in the place, so you don't have to drink the stuff. Maybe one day you will.
Sure.
And when you're ready, we got you. It's cool, man. It's really good, and it's cool to see that vibe, and it's really been it's been really cool. I'm trying to be conscious of the time, because I know we sort of we're trying to wrap up about now, but I feel like we got a really great summary of kind of what you got, like a snapshot of what Wave Maker does, as far as from the lager to the saison to the 3 IPAs, and now this amber is fantastic, by the way. This is
it's great.
Really
Thanks,
good, man. I can see
That's
why.
what I was talking
people
about,
get mad.
man. It's you can't sleep on it, man. It's good.
No.
It's just really good. It's just like, it's super smooth, easy.
Hits
like,
all
it's
the
light.
notes.
It hits all the notes, man. It's just like
It's great.
it's a good pint, man. You just can't argue with a good pint, for sure.
Can't argue with a good pint. I almost feel like that's another episode. You've been dropping.
Yeah, that's
gems
another
tonight.
good episode name, maybe.
I'm just gonna write these
All
down,
right,
because
sweet.
we'll always forget. But dude, this has been really, really dope. I really appreciate you. It's been really cool to get to know the sort of philosophy behind the brand, and like where you guys have come from and what you guys have been doing, and it's great, man. It's cool to know. It's kind of exciting. I feel like now I'm here in Hamilton now, and I feel like, because I'm so close to so many things that I was so far away from for a long time. So this summer I'm really trying to get out there and explore. I'd love to come up to, definitely, if we get out there. And I know Nate's from Burlington, and he comes out relatively regularly. So like, if I feel like I want to definitely come and check out the brewery. And I haven't been to Cambridge before, really, I don't think. So I'd like to like see what's going on out there. I feel like you guys have a real cool scene. There's a lot of really dope stuff happening.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've been to your place once before. It was in I think October of 2019. So you were open
Pretty
about
fresh.
about 6-7 months at a time at the time. And my buddy and I had a great time there. But I'd love to come by to come by soon and see what you like lately.
100%, man. Message me if you guys are planning on coming. If there's anything we could do, like I'll be there. I'll show you around. I'll show you the brewery. I'll show you like everything we got going on. I'd love to have you guys at the brewery and see. It's so great to see you in Ontario, man. I know you were out in Quebec for so long. So like, yeah, for sure, man. Like anything you guys are heading up my way, send me a message. I'll gladly show you around. And we'll sample some beers and stuff, and we'll have a good time for sure.
You're the man, brother. This has been great.
It sure has. We've been talking to a lot of breweries in your area recently. So we're racking up a list of places that we need to hit real soon. So I think we're going to need to be doing a tour out of that region in not too long.
I was gonna say, you need to come down for like a weekend or something. We're gonna have to wipe
really
the
do.
calendar
I really
clean
do.
and do it
Every
up.
brewery's killing it, man. We're all bringing it, man. Like everybody's got some really good beers up here. We actually have we work with a company called Redback Tours, and they actually organize tours from Hamilton. They come up to Cambridge, do the Cambridge breweries, and then drive back to Hamilton. So
Redback Tours. Okay.
Redback Tours, yeah. So they do. There are some tour companies we work with too that do like that bus tours that tour around to the Cambridge breweries, because there's so many of us here, and we're all doing great stuff, and we're all different, like I was saying. So it's cool to like kind of see what's going on in the town, and then you don't have to worry about driving, and you can just do your thing and enjoy. I feel like there's throughout the day. So.
I feel like there's a content collab opportunity there.
Yeah, that's fire.
For sure.
Yeah, we've done that
100%.
Yeah, that's sick.
Great people too, and we've been working with them for a few years now. So like, yeah, for sure. They've And actually, the city of Cambridge is working on like some initiatives for touring around to the Cambridge breweries and like really doing some promotion for the local breweries and stuff. Old Galt
Yeah,
Bottle Shop,
I think I
here in
remember
Galt
Farm
too, has
League
also done
like
one.
mentioning something about that. That sounded really dope.
For sure. Yeah, there's been a lot of like people taking initiatives here to hop breweries and stuff. And there was a Old Galt Bottle Shop did one in the spring or in the late winter, early spring. They were kind of touring all the breweries, including the shop, and kind of having everybody bounce around. That was really fun.
Smart.
A limo company recently approached us about kind of doing like this, kind of like a luxury limo with like the lights and like the drinks and like the boom, like the music, as you're going from like brewery to brewery. And like, so they're going to be doing these tours that go from like breweries to breweries and stuff. So
That's
like
dope.
they've done that a couple times, and it's it's cool, man. People just want to like get out and have a good time and kind of experience the whole culture as a whole. And like, I feel like Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo, everybody has like their own thing and their own vibes, and there's so many like different things going on here, and we always have different events. Like we do karaoke once a week or once a month on Fridays. We do like music bingo every other Thursday, and trivia. We're doing trivia tonight actually. So like there's always something going on at our place, and then kind of like there's always kind of things going on at the other breweries here in town. So it's cool to like kind of experience the whole beer culture we got going on up here. It's really fun.
That's great, man. I love those
Mm-hmm.
initiatives. That's super important. Like, just the bus from here, the limo, all these different things that just encourage people to come from out of town and give them an opportunity from, close by hubs to be able to come up and soak it up without having to worry about driving and just check out all the spots. Cause, it's
Mm-hmm.
probably good to get everybody to have a snapshot of everything in one hit, and then they can keep coming back regularly and maybe spend an afternoon at a place. And it really, those type of things really set off that beer tourism. And I think this summer people are really ready for it. The last summer, maybe people weren't as comfortable and things were sort of like, what's happening? But now it's like, I feel like this year feels like people are like, let's even us, we bought it, we moved to this house, and our whole last year was like a bit of a mess. So this summer, like my partner and I are trying to be out here, and if Nate gets out, then we're gonna put some time aside and go bonkers. I'm excited, man, just to keep
Yeah,
seeing meet all the legends that Nate and I are talking to on the pods. Like you've been awesome, by the way, bro.
Yeah.
This has been so great. You've like really
Thanks, man.
really like laid it out. It's great. This has been such a lot of fun, dude. I really appreciate you. I know we're gonna definitely kind of try and do this at least annually, once a year minimum. So this is
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you guys. And my wife and I tour around breweries and stuff, and we always just kind of meet up at places. So if you guys want to meet in Hamilton or Burlington or something,
hell
I would find
yeah.
if you guys are doing something, we'd love to come down, man.
Hell
And
yeah,
if you guys
man.
are coming up to the brewery, we'd love to have you for sure.
Absolutely. Let's definitely
All
let's
right, we'll
definitely
figure
keep
it
in
out.
touch. Let's take the thumbnail. We'll wrap up here, then we can finish up off air. So do you want to hold up a couple cans? Ooh, what are we gonna
Oh,
do?
sure.
Someone's gonna have to hold up the tropics. I might go the staples.
I've got Orion and Peach.
Oh, there you go.
Let's do that.
Two bangers.
All right,
right
so
there.
I'll grab two of the tropics, and I'll grab Lagerbier and Anomalous.
There you go. Look at that. Got everything represented. All right. I know. It's always like the hardest part is get them facing the right way. Okay, you ready? Oh, that is sexy. Scotty, where can everybody find Wavemaker online and in real life, my man?
Yeah, online we do have an online store. We were using Swift Post to ship our stuff, and they've recently wrapped up.
Oh, no.
So we're in between suppliers at the moment for the online stuff. So we've unfortunately turned that off for the next month or two. Trying to figure out the right moves there. We were talking with UPS and a few other suppliers of what it will be, and
ICS
as we
is
know,
pretty good if you look at them.
yes, and so we were using ICS and CanPar through SwiftPost, but we are talking with Canada Post and a few others. So we're just kind of like quoting it out right now, and so
Take some time.
Figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just gonna take a little while to figure all that out.
That's fine.
But you can come visit us at the brewery. You can find us at your local bottle shop. And you can find us on tap at your local restaurants. We do get out there as far as we can. So yeah, feel free to look for us at your local place.
Love it. I love it. Nathaniel, where can everyone find you online, sir?
So all the socials, it's at NathanDoesBeer. The blogs, which have not been updated recently because I've been
Too busy
allocating my
co-hosting.
time. I've been prioritizing
Excuse me
my
just 1 second.
time
You're good.
to co-hosting BAOS podcast.
Damn right you have.
You know, need to pick and choose where I'm spending my time because I'm a new dad. So this is where I'm giving my time right now, and you know
And
what?
I appreciate it.
It's been worth it because I get to talk to beautiful people like Scotty right here.
What a champion.
But yeah, so everywhere on social is at NathanDoesBeer. Otherwise, you can find me right here on BAOS podcast.
Every week, looking good, looking sharp, asking the heavy hitting questions, knowing the vibes.
Repping the gear.
You know, Nathaniel knows. So everybody, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit the notification bell, Nathaniel,
Ding.
so you know when the new episodes drop. We go every Wednesday. The audio goes in the morning, the podcast, the actual video goes in the evening. Lots of content coming up. Nate and I have a big summer. Fantastic people like the very attractive young Scott right there. Guys, check out Wavemaker. Scotty, thank you again for your time. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.
Cheers.
Peace.